Welcome to Don't Be Caged by Your Age, Kerry Schrader. I'm so happy you're here to share how you're shattering age related expectations. How are you?
Andy, just being here with you, I am thrilled and I so welcome the invitation to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Listeners, Carrie and I know each other from my days in the startup entrepreneurial ecosystem. So this is not our first rodeo together
Not at
chatting
all.
about life and our adventures. But let me give you a little background on Carrie. She's a seasoned career design partner with over 25 years of high level HR experience, expertise, and a decade in the tech startup arena. And as a thriver of open heart surgery and breast cancer, and a female entrepreneur who has navigated the complexities of startup ecosystems and fundraising, Carrie helps clients balance work and family, engage employees effectively, advance their careers, and embrace entrepreneurship with courage and clarity. We are going to learn so much from you, Carrie. But before we dive into your services and how your life is lighting up now, please share your age and where you're hailing from.
Well, thank you for what an awesome introduction. I appreciate it. This year happens to be the Bedidian birthday, my Bedidian birthday. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. I was born in 62 and I just turned 62 in June. And I am proud of it. And I have to tell you, Andy, not so long ago, when somebody asked how old I was, my oldest child is 36. And I would say, "Oh, I'm 38." And she would say, "Mom, the math don't math." And I would say, "Shut up." It's my story. But as I have had the grace and the blessing to continue to live, I'm proud of 62, and I actually have a prime example of aging gracefully in my family, as I have a cousin that will be 104 years old that lives on her own. She literally just took a 17-hour car trip as a passenger to back to our hometown, went and did everything, lives on her own. And so guess what? Her 104 is definitely the new 80 because she gets to it. So
And you,
just a
we're
great example to have.
Oh, that's so inspirational. And really, this is what Don't Be Caged by Your Age is all about, to provide representation in our conversations and stories so we can look forward to these decades that are so important as we age and that we feel good about instead of stuck on the couch and feeling isolated and lonely. And having conversations around how we can stay connected and visible and viable as we age. So, Carrie, I know you've got one or two wild stories you'd like to share from your 62 years of living with folks, just to give us a flavor of where you've been and who you are.
Well, again, I swear, and this is, I'm going to use your words. This is a delicious conversation. And I actually am, people tell me I'm quite the storyteller and I have lots of stories, but the two that come in my mind quickly is one that's older than 30 years and then one more recently. So the latter is how I met my husband. I met my husband at work. We both worked for Ford Motor Company. We both were in labor relations. And when I first met him on my interview, I did not like him. I did not like him a lot. I thought he was very stringent. He's slightly older than me. So I saw those characteristics of, oh, you're way too into this job versus letting it be a part of you. It's taking you over. Now that we've been married almost 30 years, I hear through the grapevine, he talked about me as well. Like, wow, she came in and act like she owned the joint. So not only that's how we started off, but we were secretly married for 1 year and nobody knew it. And we actually got married at a Ford conference in Vegas. And so truly, when I tell you what goes on in Vegas stays there, it stayed there for an entire year when we had a church wedding and people were shocked. And we lived within 10 miles of the plant that we worked at in the same house. But he had a post office box and I had one of those remote phone numbers. And so it was always funny to hear people talk about him at work and him talk about me. And so we had to do a truce at home not to talk about work in front of the kids so much because we're like, you know what? People don't know it. So it's not fair. So unless somebody does some kind of death threat on one or the other, our personalities are different. But 30 years later, when there was a lot of naysayers, here we are. And if he was here, he would tell you best decision ever because he was able to retire 22 years ago because we were driving my career. So that
Hey,
yes. So what a fun
I love that love story, Carrie.
yes, the going strong. And then the one that is more recent, I just was on a game show a couple months ago called Press Your Luck. One of the craziest things I've ever done watching that show was sitting on the couch in December and thought, I'm going to apply. Why not? You always say what if, but you make up all of these baseless excuses. I applied, then they wanted a video that was uploaded into their own thing where I couldn't play with the video. And I almost didn't do it. Did it, left it alone, didn't think about it, got a note in May. 30 days later, I'm at auditions in Beverly Hills.
Oh my, did they fly you to California, Carrie?
Yes. Yes, they fired me and my husband, gave us accommodations, a little food stipend. And that's what I told my husband. If nothing else, it was a fun 3-day thing. You can't go to a game show. It has strategy, but it's also luck and all of that stuff. You can't go on thinking you're going to win. I really just wanted the opportunity to talk about entrepreneurship and coaching. That was going to be my win. So when I won the first part of the
Wait,
show,
you won the first part of the show? Really?
yes, and I had 2 opponents that I won, and then when I made it to the main part of the show, I beat the whammy. I actually won a trip for 25 people to Australia, where my new son-in-law is from. I won a brand new car, a fancy car. I won almost $10,000 of perfume, which I can't wait to see when it comes. Because what is $10,000 worth of perfume? And I want enough cash to, you know, me and Uncle Sam to have a talk and be okay. So,
Well, because folks, you may know this already, but when you win prizes on these shows, you have to pay taxes on these prizes, right?
yes, you do. And it's been just such a blessing all the way around. My husband was it because I won and went to that second round. He was able to be on TV as well. I got to tell you, it streams on Hulu. I am season 6, episode 4. Says, I can't believe it. That's the name of the episode. And it has been crazy. I got a lot of publicity when it played back in August here in Alabama. And so, just again, 2 crazy stories. I have a million of them, but those are the first 2 that came to mind.
Oh, Carrie, I got to tell you, listeners, are you as excited as I am to know somebody who went on a game show? First of all, applied and actually got on the darn game show and then won and didn't win just
What?
like a little thing. You won significant prizes.
25 people to Australia. My son-in-law has 2 young children. One just turned 7, and the little girl's about to turn 9 in a week. They haven't been back to Australia since they were 6 months old and 2.5 years old. His mother and father love me, and I didn't just pick that. Like, I didn't know I wanted until it came up. They ask you for a big list of stuff, potentially, but the board is a surprise to you too. So out of all the things I asked for to have gotten that trip, which means the most out of anything, because I can buy a car, I can buy stuff, but to take my family, 25 of us to Australia,
To the Southern Hemisphere. And
yes,
it's
it's
a
crazy.
long flight.
Yeah.
Woo! This is so exciting. And I don't know about you listeners, but doesn't it make you think about, wow, maybe there's a game show out there that I'd like to apply to get on?
Don't stop, do it. And even just again to have the fun.
Right. And Carrie, I'm going to be looking on Hulu, one of my favorite apps that I have on my smart, or we say here in Boston, Wicked Smart TV. I'm going to be looking for season 6, episode 4 for Press Your Luck.
Lord, what? Yes. Me and Elizabeth Banks, best friends.
Are you
sort of.
kidding? Elizabeth Banks is one of the most fun actresses out there. She's an advocate as well and an activist for
And
so
she's
many important
authentic.
things.
So add that to it. Activist and advocate and very, very, very authentic.
Oh, I love her, Something Fierce. So that makes it even more fun. Thank you for sharing that exciting story. And I first, before we go into what's been lighting you up, one more step, which is we at our age, right? We grew up with ageist beliefs on how we were supposed to be as we entered our 60s, right? And 70s and 80s. Now, of course, you've got the great representation of your cousin who was already over the age of 100 doing remarkable things. But when we were growing up, we didn't see that too much. We often saw folks who were in their 60s a little hunched over, wearing cardigans, not doing too much, maybe gardening, taking care of the grandkids. What mythologies did you have for this time of your life versus, what you're seeing yourself do and what folks around you are doing?
I think you already summed it up. I think about my maternal grandmother who I used to go there for lunch. To remember when people would go home from elementary school for lunch, and
Yeah.
I would go, she lived around the corner from us and my mom worked. And so I would go to her house for lunch. And when she passed away, she was just 65. But when I close my eyes and I think of her, her name was actually Pearl Bailey. So people are like, your grandmother's Pearl Bailey? Yeah, but not that one. And my grandfather was Fletcher Lee Bailey. So I come from like almost famous stock. But we called her Momo, and when I think about her, she's exactly what you described, a little old, kinda chubby, kind of frail lady that you thought, okay, as a kid, you never think you're gonna get to even 35 years old because that's, like, incredibly old, and I can't believe you're alive. But I would look at her and be like, "Woo," like, "Woo." To 10, she would never have this makeup on that I have, or lipstick, or high heel shoes, or nails done, or I got 7 colors in my hair. And so that is exactly how I grew up to think is a destiny really waiting to death. Like
That's
you
that's
call it in
right.
and you said, and now you just wait for the inevitable. So much
That's no
different than
fun.
reality.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you, because you've been in HR, human resources, for so long in corporations, whether it's labor side or the internal, personnel development side of corporations, you understand what retirement means for the corporation and for the employees who have to leave at the age of 65. It's like the clock strikes midnight on 65 and it's like, boom, you're supposed to become this completely different person. You're going to lose all your connections. What did you see while you were in those roles? And how did it inform you about what retire means?
Well, it's funny. I have to admit, I was probably well into my 30 and relatively new in my real career path in HR. But I also watched the commercials with Social Security and at this magical time, the beach chairs. And of course, you had your grandkids at Disney and doing all of these fine things. I didn't know exactly how it got paid for. I know this thing called FICA was cutting big into my paycheck, but I just thought it all worked out. And then, looking at corporations, and I'm gonna say pretty much a yesteryear because I think they're coming back to their senses. It was you aged out and you really weren't relevant. And I think because there's been so many cuts based on age and time on the job, that now look at how corporations are actually functioning because they do not have any of that historical wisdom. As part of any diverse plan, it also has to have an age component. There's always something great about getting something new, but it's something that you can depend on that steadiness and consistency with that old pair of jeans that will get you through like, oh yeah, these jeans work with everything. And I know when I put them on exactly what they match with. So that leather is really cool. But these old Levi's, people pay a lot of money for Levi's, but
That's
if
right.
don't well. So I mean, I have seen it, and I do think, especially with the labor shortage, and as companies were exiting out, the employees that had the most corporate knowledge of the company, and again, the wisdom and the connectivity, they now are in trouble and are looking to backfill that. And that's not to say, as this country has just gone through the big age debate at the highest level, that at some point it's just a fine line of
Right.
having good
Well,
leadership.
and I think what needs to happen too, Carrie, is that corporations need to find ways for older employees to work 30-hour weeks or
Yep.
25-hour weeks, so that they come in, they're bringing their, and I love this word that you said, historical wisdom. They're
Yeah.
bringing that to the plate. And it doesn't matter if they're reporting to someone 20 or 30 years younger than them. The reciprocity of information, the fresh new ideas and view of the world combined with the decades of lived experience. We just have to watch the movie The Intern with Robert De Niro and Anne
I love
Hathaway.
that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
to see how that can really add value. I think we're going to get there. And sometimes it may have to happen in court with policy changes, or other corporations will wise up. But I do know that 7 out of 10 pre-retirees, Carrie, are very anxious about this. What do you mean I have to stop working? I don't want to stop working. I love what I'm doing. I may want to scale back a little from a 40, 50, 60-hour week to something more reasonable, but they don't want to stop. So thank you for sharing that view of the world. And listeners, we are chatting with Kerry Schrader. You can go to her website, Kerry, Kerry, Schrader, SCHRADER.com, to learn more about how she is taking and packaging her lived experiences and now serving the world in such a unique way. And let's dive into that, Carrie. What is fueling your passion today? And how are you continuing to glow and grow as you age into your 60s and beyond?
Well, again, thank you for that question and just the ability to think out loud with you and your listeners. I I don't see retirement as an end. And to your point, I'm no longer interested in those 60-hour weeks and flying. I at one point in the peak of my career, I was gone 50%, 60% of the time for my home and family. I'm not interested in that, but I am interested in helping people of all ages, from brand new professionals to people my age and older, navigate concerns, look to define goals of things that I have experienced. I kind of call myself the real life coach. I will only coach on subjects that I have experience and expertise in, and that has come with time. And even over time, something that would have made complete sense to share with somebody, or how I navigated a situation, has changed to be relevant to today and how you have to navigate. And to be able to share that, I've already had feedback from people saying, "You're not charging enough. You need to charge more."
Well, what are you
I'm really
charging?
it's at this point, it's $60 an hour
Woo!
for to really dive into what your issue is. I think of myself as, we're gonna say, OBGYN. I'm interested in that getting pregnant phase. What is a specific issue? What is a specific obstacle you have? Let me give you historical wisdom of things that I have done, perhaps even connect you to people in my network that
Right.
can help you push through. So as you get to the need for midwife in this example, now have specific questions. You have multiple outcomes in your head that can guide you through that experience, and actually bring your cost down, because you're not wasting time uh,
That's right.
trying to figure it out in real time. So I am really at that stage of, if you have a real obstacle, goal in mind, or concern in my lived experience, that 60 minutes it can pay for itself in 12.
It absolutely can. And I would call you a life doula in the sense that, you know, we come to not just roadblock.
Write that down. You might see a change on the website. Go ahead, life doula.
Well, you're helping people when they're at a crossroad, when they're sitting there going, what am I going to do next? And listeners, you always have the answer within you, but you need to talk it out loud. I know this firsthand from being a four times founder. It was always so helpful to talk about what problems I was trying to solve and I was up against out loud with someone. And I would honestly start hearing the answers to these problems while I was talking it out loud. And what happens when you talk to someone like Kerry is that they are going to have unique eyes that they're looking at for you and with you, so that they are going to spotlight things that you might just take for granted, not even know are there about yourself, and be able to go, hey, let's pull on this thread. Did you know this about yourself? And you'd be like, geez, I didn't realize that was valuable. Or really, I just took that for granted or had no idea. And this is why calling and working with someone like Carrie is so important when you're trying to decide, okay, I don't want to do selling insurance or whatever it is that you've been doing for most of your career, but you know you want to thrive after the age of 65. How do you begin to figure out what that looks like? And I love that Carrie, you are offering yourself, first of all, at such an affordable rate so that people, it's not a deal breaker. Everybody's got 60 bucks hanging around somewhere to have this because you are going to always cut to the chase very quickly. I know this about you, but you can tell in just talking with you in this conversation that you are very discerning. You quickly can read people, read situations, and then you're going to pull on your lived experience to add that historical wisdom, but also as an with a background in human resources, you have been dealing with and working with personal development and human development for decades. So your ability to chat with someone combined with entrepreneurship, right? So many folks right now are launching service businesses, consulting practices, and need the opportunity to say, hey, Carrie, what do you think? I've got this idea. I'm thinking of doing this. And then you can hash it out with them. I love this.
Thank you so much. I was thinking about this for myself. When I think about my life, personal, professionally, and entrepreneurship, the best advice I have gotten from people are actually people who have traveled the path. And so that's my thing. When you're looking for a coach, find one, even if it's not me, find one who has done the things that you want to do.
Right.
And it's really just that easy. And there's no silver bullets. There's no one person is gonna fix all of your things. And I think the pricing comes from being the rate is coming from being an entrepreneur, just really needing the space to hear somebody who's done it, to get a thought, to, as people say, pick their brain, and again, with nothing being a silver bullet or a guarantee, but I've had people say, I'll talk to you for $1,000. I'll do so and so. I'll bet this out for you for $5,000. And you get no guarantee. And again, if they've not done what you wanted to do, there's a high probability you're not going to get any real actionable advice,
Right.
opinion.
And it's a block for anybody over the age of 60 who's looking at how am I going to be more conservative with my funds, because now if you're not earning at the level you used to earn, or you're going to be downsizing your income ability because you are leaving a current gig or have retired, you need to be able to afford these conversations. And it's so wonderful and generous that you are providing this service, Carrie. I really feel so strongly about it.
Again, thank you. This is I
So
think it's funny. Oprah said a long time ago, she talked about self actualization. And again, it was so long ago that when she first talked about it and Maslow's hierarchy, I don't know if I really understood it, right? I mean, when I'm 35, 40, running around with kids, husband, juggling a demanding career. But now at 62, I get it. It is something about self actualization, which takes you at the very peak of the hierarchy where you're more than able and willing to share what you have freely with others.
and I just looked on my bulletin board, my magnetic bulletin board here, because I have a quote from Oprah, which is truest, highest version of yourself. What is that? What does that look like? And that changes over time at different stages and ages. And that's part of what you're helping folks with when they call and chat with you. So how does someone reach out to you? How do they begin the conversation and take us through like what an hour could look like?
Yes, well, as I also say, it is on us as we age gracefully to stay relevant. So part
Right.
of that relevancy for me, especially coming out of tech, is to have everything tech enabled. If people get on kerryschrader.com, not only can they learn more about me and the things that I have experience and expertise in, there is a spot to schedule time. I have a 15-minute intro just for 15 minutes. It's totally free. Let's hear what you have. And I will tell you up front, nope, I've never tackled an alligator. Can't really talk to you about how to wrangle one. Or, hey, I do have some expertise. You can, schedule 30 minutes or 60 minutes and let's have the conversation and come prepared, right? So getting in touch with me, all of my contact information, including the ability to make an appointment is right on kerryschrader.com. As far as how that hour is set up, if you schedule the time that is paid time, you'll be prompted to answer some questions because what I want to do is make sure that we use every minute of it brainstorming, talking about, figuring out what are the best things, what are options that you can choose to take based on what you told me and my experience. So I want to make sure we're focused on that. I will say, because the word is out that I'm pretty funny. People understand my entrepreneurship um, path. And my daughter, we're the 37th or 38th Black females to raise $1 million or more. She knows something about HR. She'll even talk to you about personal things like a blended family, the things that, again, that I've done. People will get on the phone and they want to talk about Press Your Luck and all the other things. I really want any kind of investment to be invested in that person. And so
Right.
I would steer that conversation around every time, but it's truly a common sense. You said it. I discern and I get straight to the point. I'm not afraid to in everything I do. Let's just say this is a perfect world. I respect people and I want to be respected. So I will never say anything disrespectful, but I also don't buy into, I want to start a business, but I never want to leave home and I'm not gonna I don't have the money to fund it and nobody's gonna help me fund it. I am not gonna say, oh, well, you could probably turn this into a multi-billion dollar experience. Or, if only I talk to Andy and Kerry and Gandhi, then it will be great. I'm like, no,
So
I
you're willing to give the tough news as well with respect, which is, look, I love this idea that you came up with this idea, but I have to be honest with you, based on my experience, this would be pretty difficult to do for the following reasons. I mean, we don't want to come up and burst anybody's bubbles, but given you and I both have experience in so many different lanes, we have seen what works, what doesn't, and what feels like a pie in the sky. If you had $5 million might be able to work versus what's actionable. And also, a lot of times, listeners, you can start these conversations with someone like Carrie and about one specific problem, but then what happens is, or opportunity, but what happens is up bubbles the thing you really want to talk about or the thing you really need to talk about. And that's the magic of booking a conversation with someone, along with the fact I know, Carrie, you're very well connected, and who you don't know, you're only a handshake away from meeting. So, a lot of times, having someone help you make those connections are so important. And the referral world, people forget how important that is. And you are on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Kerry, right? Kerry Schrader.
Yeah. Kerry Schrader, I am there on LinkedIn. And the other thing I want to add is I also believe my services could be of value to cohorts and employees. So I'm not opposed to doing some sort of package that will give people an opportunity that's part of a cohort, a university class. I've actually gone and co-led a couple of university classes on entrepreneurship. The students are always the feedback I always get is, "It is so great talking to a real person that's not trying to sell us something." It's
Oh,
like, "Yo, you get to ask it. Just don't ask me how much I weigh. You know how old I am now. Now we're not gonna get so free that we talk about how much I weigh. But other than that, there's no question that's off limits." And I mean, all the good stuff too, because when I tell you my journey in life, I feel like I have had a privileged life. I've worked hard. My parents taught me how to work. I've been able to do some wild thing, starting a business with my daughter, just the crazy stuff that I have done. So I have a lot of upside, but I am not scared to share the downside. I mean, being a breast cancer survivor, ready to raise money and then find out I have breast cancer and
oh,
having to juggle that ball and try to stay, not try to be positive, because I do believe my life is already worked out by the Lord. But
yeah.
it's still, that's easier said than done once you hear the word cancer. Or I was 7 when I had open heart surgery. If it
Oh,
wasn't
no.
for my dad's diverse group of United Steelworker friends, Polish, Puerto Rican, Black, white, Barney, purple, I wouldn't be here. I actually have articles where I was in my local newspaper, like this little girl gets blood from all of these big guys. So it was never a thought of this issue of we are human and humans need to take care of other humans. So again, I know there's a space for it, and I know people need it, trying to make it affordable, but it also is a blessing to me. Because a lot of times when I'm talking to somebody about something, again, because I've done it, it refreshes the blessing of where I am to go back and remember.
That is so beautiful, and there's a Japanese term for this called ikigai, Ikigai, and it's a Venn diagram. So you're on purpose. It's something the world needs. It's something you can get paid for, and it is a profession. I think I got all of them. And
Yeah.
in the center, that is your ikigai. Thank you for figuring that out and being here to help others figure that out as a life doula.
It's I'm
It turned
telling you, if
because
you see that, I was you all say, Andy, as soon as we're done, I'm getting ready to call my marketing partner to say, "What did you think of that?"
well,
Kind of like
because
a
we have
gynecologist, kinda not.
but we have doulas for, new parents, right? Helping you bring a baby into the world. And we have death doulas now, those who help you transition and die. But we need a life doula. We need someone to help hold our hands and figure things out because every new adventure is that. It's new and you don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
so it's important to share that with someone. Oh, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this wonderful opportunity and your beautiful stories from being 7 years old and having heart surgery to breast cancer during your entrepreneurship days, raising capital to the secret love affair that turned into a lasting marriage, plus
Hers.
yay, and then going on a game show and winning so many cool prizes. This has been such a delicious conversation, Carrie. Please remind listeners how they can find you and stay in touch with you.
Yes, I am on LinkedIn, Kerry Schrader. I am on Instagram, the Millennial Plus, and on my website, kerryschrader.com, KerrySchrader.com, no spaces. Uh, and certainly if you reach out, I will reach back. I have to tell you, one of the blessings of this entrepreneurship journey is Andy and I crossing paths. When I saw her email in my inbox, it was almost Christmas in July, and that's how solid of a person she is, and she is another person that is dedicated to lifting up others and getting good information out, and so please don't never let your 68-year-old young self stop. Do not stop.
Thank you. Oh, tears in my eyes. Thank you. My heart's filled with joy from those beautiful words, Carrie. Thank you so much.
You are welcome, so deserved.
Oh, and listeners, remember you have so much to give. Don't let those internalized ageist beliefs prevent you from pursuing new dreams and opportunities. There's so much life left in your life. Uh, Stay tuned and also please stay connected. You can find me everywhere on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube. I'd love to hear from you. Do not hesitate to reach out. I know Carrie would love to hear from you too. And until next time, I'm wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Cheers from Boston, everyone. Thank you,
Bye.
Carrie. Yay! Listeners, I'm so grateful you carved out time to tune in and grab the gems from this delicious conversation. Be sure to hop on over to Don't Be Caged by Your Age on LinkedIn or Instagram to share your thoughts about ageism and unretirement. Because in this space, your age doesn't define you, it refines you. If you are inspired by a story you hear, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe, share, rate, and review the podcast. To receive an alert whenever a new show is posted, please join the Don't Be Caged by Your Age newsletter. Every month, you'll receive links to the podcast and helpful resources for creating possibilities for your unretirement days. Thank you for tuning in. I am so excited to hear how you found ways to thrive after 65. Waving from Boston, cheers.